Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this session of the 108 important slokas of the Bhagavad Gita. Today we will be looking at the sloka number 6 from the 4th chapter entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tathoje Mudiraye Dhanashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangam Langhaite Girim Yat Kripatam Hammande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Iswaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Ananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadigaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the 6th shloka from the 4th chapter. Is a very important shloka to understand. Shloka is like this: Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavamyatma mayaya. Ajopi san avyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropi san Prakritim Swamadhishtaya Sambhavamyatma Mayaya. Ajopi san avyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropi san Prakritim Swamadhishtaya Sambhavamyatma Mayaya. Translation: Although I am unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as Swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. Although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, He had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun has set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of God is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with 4 hands and the decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy bestowed upon the living entity so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy, according to the Vishwakosha dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all of his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self or between his quality and body. The question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse. Om Tat Sat. Om Jnana Tivarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lakhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Mande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramanandamatamam Sri Chaitanya Ishvara. Hare Krishna. Ajopi san avyaya atma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma maya. This is a sloka that Krishna is speaking to Arjuna in continuation of something Arjuna asked. Arjuna asked Krishna a question that you are here in front of me and you are now speaking this Gita to me. And now you say that you spoke this to Vivaswan. So Vivaswan, I know, is from a very, 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 very early period. So Arjuna is confused and he is asking Krishna to please clear this doubt. So one thing is that the living entity always has doubts. Okay? And we wrongly think that doubt is because, I am very smart, I can ask a doubt. No. Actually, doubt is because we have ignorance. It's a very, very interesting thing to think about, because we always say, oh, I don't have any intelligence, so I'm not asking any doubt. So we are thinking that intelligence and doubt, Yes, you should have intelligence, true. But all questions, all doubts about the transcendental nature, position, etc. of the Supreme Lord and his relationship with Jiva, everything is actually a product of ignorance. Okay. But what we are expected to have is enough intelligence to know that I am ignorant. To that also you need some intelligence. You know, we can't, the real fool is the one who does not even know that he is fool. Is it not? Real fool is someone who doesn't even realize that he is a fool. Like Prabhupada says, you know, uh, this is an example extrapolated from what Prabhupada spoke. You may not be educated, but you want to educate your child. So you should have enough knowledge that if I take my child to a school, he'll be educated. That much at least we should know. You know, otherwise, what is the point? So like that, we must have enough to understand or to know or to realize that I don't know. There are many things I don't know, like that. So why we are saying this is because we see the position that Arjuna is putting himself in, you know, telling to Krishna, see, you know, so this is actually a very good way to approach and understand. That is why this would come, the more of this will get covered in the 34th shloka of this chapter, you know. So when we come to that, we will discuss that. But just I touched upon it, you know, how Arjuna is putting up, you know, very genuinely. See, you are now standing in front of me. You and I, we are, you know, same age people. So you are saying like this. So Arjuna is acting as a via medium for Krishna to actually express and enlighten us about his transcendental self, his transcendental position as the supreme, you know. So Arjuna is acting as that person who is, you know, representing all the living entities, so that the Lord is going to enlighten not only Arjuna but all the students of Bhagavad Gita. So that is what is actually happening. And what does Lord say? Lord says, Bahuni me vyatitani, that sloka, that you and I, O Arjuna, we have both gone through many, many janmas. But you don't remember any of them. I remember all of them. You know. And then in today's verse, in verse number 6, Krishna says, Ajo api san avyayatma. I am actually Aja. See, all the inconceivable things about Krishna, we must understand. When we speak about Krishna and Krishna's activities being inconceivable, that means that conception is beyond our material intellect. It is beyond our sense perception. So that is why Acharyas always say that one must transcend this platform of the senses and the mind and purify the intelligence to that level where these things will be factually understood. Until then, we must consider this as inconceivable, that we are trying to understand. What is that? Aja. Aja means unborn. Why I am saying inconceivable and difficult to understand? If Krishna is Aja, then who is the son of Devaki? Who is the son of Kausalya? Who is the son of Aditi? Who is the son of Shachimata? You know. Aja, I am unborn. Although I am unborn. And Avyaya, without deterioration. So if Krishna did not deteriorate, then why is it that, the Mausala Leela was performed? How could the hunter shoot an arrow on Krishna's feet? You know, we can go on asking like this. So, Ajopisan, Avyayatma, imperishable, indestructible, not deteriorating, Bhutanam Ishwaropisan, although I am the Lord of all living entities. So Krishna also says, I am unborn, I have no diminution, deterioration, then I am Bhutanam Ishvara. I am the controller of everything. Bhuta, including Chara and Achara, moving and unmoving Bhuta, both Jada Prakriti and the Tatashta Prakriti, everything is controlled actually by Krishna. Everything is controlled by Krishna. He says that Bhutanam Ishwaropisan, although I am this also, Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya Sabhavamyatmamaya. Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya. Prabhupada says that is indicating the original transcendental form, Prakritim Swam, my Prakriti. And how do I appear? Sambhavami Atmamaya. I appear by my internal energy. Prabhupada in many places says, the Supreme Lord appears by his own sweet will. When we ask a question, why did the Lord incarnate? Why did Krishna incarnate? So immediately we will say that, Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinasaya Dushkritam. We will say that the Lord incarnated as Ramachandra to kill Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Lord incarnated, Krishna, self-same personality, he incarnated so that he can kill Shishupala and Dantavakra, because there is the Jaya Vijaya history is there. Why did the Lord come as Nrsimha? Because he had to kill Hiranyakashipu, one of the Jaya Vijaya brothers. Why did the Lord come as Varaha? He had to kill the other Jaya Vijaya brother called Hiranyaksha. So we will say, in vernacular language, they will say Avatar Uddesham, But here, Krishna is saying, actually I appear by my own sweet will. That means all these, the avatara activities, that is the killing of the demons and all setting right dharma, all that is there, that goes on. But Atma Maya is the crux. Atma Maya is the most important point to be noted, that he appears by his own sweet will and nobody can force him to appear. That is the whole point in this. Very important point, nobody can force him to appear. And then another very important point Prabhupada takes up is that Krishna is appearing in his original transcendental form. This, in the purport, we will, when we go through the purport, we will understand that, Atmamaya means Lord is descending by his internal potency and not by external potency. What does that mean? It means we are all accepting and giving up various kinds of material bodies by the arrangement of the external potency or the Mahamaya of the Lord. Because we are all subjugated, we are all subject to the control of Mahamaya. So our coming and going is controlled. We are being dictated to by Mahamaya. In contrast, Sambhavami Atma Maya, the Lord's appearance and disappearance is by his own sweet will. And Avyayam, the Lord's body and his intelligence, never deteriorates. It is not contaminated by material nature. So this is something that Prabhupada makes a point to cut across, to completely, what shall I say, defeat the Mayavada understanding. That this form is actually a material form. Anything that has a form is material. But that is a very limited understanding. The complete understanding is what? Yes, in the material world, all forms that we see are material. However, when the Lord appears in the material realm, in the material platform, although he appears to be having a form, which is there, definitely, Lord has a form. But that form is different from the all other forms that we see in the material. And that form of the Lord is completely transcendental. That's why Prabhupada takes so much pain to explain that, how although Krishna appeared to be growing, Prabhupada says, that he was a small child with Yashoda Maya, then he went on to Mathura, he became a blooming youth, then he went on to Dwaraka, where he became an adult, then he went on to sire children and grandchildren and became grandfather. But Krishna was always Navayogana. And he is not subject to this jara that every other living entity is subject to. That means he's the Supreme Lord even when he appears in the material world and even accepts or is seen to be accepting the position of a grandsire, a grandfather. Still, his Navayoganam remains as it is. That is because his body is transcendental. It cannot be compared to any material form because it is not made of anything material. So, Sambhavami Atma Maya, although I am unborn. So what we are seeing as Krishna being born, actually Krishna is not being born. That is why he's called Avatara. Avatirnita means one who comes down. That is the meaning of that word. Avatirnita means one who came down. That means you're somewhere up. He came down. That's only the meaning of avatar. And that is why when the day the Lord appears is also called Jayanti. That word Jayanti is to be used only for the Lord. Whenever the Lord incarnates, that particular day is called Jayanti. It may also be used in reverence to denote the appearance days of great personalities. Like Mahatmas. When I say Mahatma, Mahatmanastu Mampartha Devi Prakriti Mashida, that Mahatma, not the other Mahatma that you may be thinking. Okay. So, but now what we have done, practically every Tom Jayanti, Dick Jayanti, Harry Jayanti we have. But basically, because the Lord Sambhavami Atma Mayaya always maintains his transcendental position, whether he is coming in the material world or whether he is remaining in the spiritual world. So his transcendental position is not affected in any way. So Atma Mayaya, he comes, and Prakritim Swam. That Prakriti, Prabhupada explains in the purport that it means Swarupa, which means the own form of the Lord. And then Prabhupada also explains how the Lord is eternally situated and gives the example of us seeing the sun to be rising and setting, you know. Because with our limited vision, we are able to, we see for some time the sun is not there, then we see for some time sun going up, then we see sometimes the sun staying on top, then we see the sun going down, then we don't see the sun for some time. Then again we see the sun coming up. So we say the sun comes and goes, the sun rises and sets. But what is the reality? Reality is that for 12 hours, 11 and a half hours or 12 and a half hours, we are not able to see the sun, that's all. Sun has not gone anywhere. But from the point of view of our indriyas, our eyes, we can only see the sun for this limited period of time. And then he disappears from vision, appears again. So similarly, the Lord also is appearing. And Atma Maya, Prabhupada says, also means that the Lord is descending by his costless mercy. You know, the Lord's mercy is called Ahaituki, Ahaituki Kripa. So once somebody asked this question, what is actually the meaning of Ahaituki Kripa? We always say, no, in many places we read this term, costless mercy of the Lord. Costless mercy of the Lord. So what is Ahaituki Kripa? On a material platform, we all do things. There is always a cause and effect behind it. There is a cause for me to do something, then there is an effect of it. You know, basically that effect is acting as the cause for whatever I do. Is it not? Today I am going to office. Why? Because the effect of going to office is the end of the month crediting in my bank account. You know, so that actually acts as a cause for me to attend office today, because of the effect that it will produce on the 30th of the month or the 1st of the following month. That means what? Everything that we do, the cause of everything that we do on the material platform is actually due to the effect of that action that it produces. But you see, everything that Krishna does and everything that we also do on the platform of devotional service, on the transcendental platform, it doesn't work like that. We see this whole bhakti process, you know, the cause and effect and the result are all same. No. So that is when we act on a transcendental platform. Now take the position of the Supreme Lord. Once my Gurudev Jayapataka Swami said that costless mercy means simply he doesn't have to do it, but he does it. That is costless mercy. The Lord does not have to incarnate and do all these things to uplift all those people who are in Sattva Guna. The sages of Naimisharanya asked, you know, the reason for the Lord's appearance, and Suta Goswami said that to elevate everybody who is in the platform of Sattva, to reclaim them back to his realm, the Lord comes, he says. But then that itself is ample proof that his mercy is causeless. So out of his causeless mercy, he appears, Sambhavami Atmamaya. So although, so everything is causeless mercy, we should know. That Aja becomes Devaki Nandana. He is Aja, he is unborn. But he appears in the womb of Devaki. If the Lord did not appear within the womb of Devaki, why would the Devatas do the Garbhastuti? We read in the Srimad Bhagavad that when Devaki was pregnant with the 8th child, Brahmadi Devas came and they circumambulated Devaki because she was carrying in her womb their worshipable Lord. And we also very clearly, the Acharyas explained that, but it is Krishna's vasa in Devaki's Garbha Vasadi Dukkham. Kulshekar Alvar says, this Garbhavasa Dukkham is something very, very unbearable for the Jivatma. So does it mean to say that, when the Devatas did Garbhastuti to Devaki, does the Supreme Lord's Garbhavasa is in any way similar to our Garbhavasa? Not at all. We means conditioned living entities enter into a particular given womb out of no choice, and he is subjected to all kinds of difficulties within that womb. When the Lord chooses to enter any womb, the womb simply becomes Vaikuntha. Why? Again, see, everything we can logically understand. Wherever the Lord goes, all paraphernalia, including his transcendental realm, follows him. Correct? Where is Krishna? That is where is Vrindavan. That is why we say, Prabhupada went from Vrindavan to America. But we always say, but Prabhupada carried Vrindavan with him in his consciousness. So, even for a bhakta, when we say this, imagine the Lord. The Lord's Garbhavasa is absolutely in no way restrictive like our Garbhavasa. But the fact that he chose to be in Devaki's Garbha, and if you ask whether he spent that 9 months in that Garbha like us, absolutely not. But then why did the Devatas come and do the circumambulation? Because he was in the Garbha. Again, you see, inconceivable. Ajopisan avyayatma jivanam bhutanam ishwaropisan prakriti swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamaya. So, I do these things by my sweet will, and he does it out of his causeless mercy. Atmamaya also means causeless mercy. So everything is on the platform of the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. And it is also that he is supremely independent, and by his own sweet will, he does these things. And when he descends, avatirnita, when he descends, he retains all the transcendental attributes that he has in the spiritual realm. Prabhupada, in the beginning of the purport to this verse, speaks. Prabhupada takes a very, very small point, and it is very, very practical for us to analyze and understand. Prabhupada speaks about, you ask a man what he did exactly at this time yesterday, he wouldn't know. Most people wouldn't know. But Krishna knows everything. So Prabhupada says, to claim that I am God, what a big nonsense it is. It's a very, very simple point that even the most uneducated person can understand. That why is it that a living entity cannot claim himself to be God? Because Prabhupada is continuing on from the 5th sloka to the 6th, where Krishna says that many births you and I have taken, only that you cannot remember all the births, I can remember everything. So Krishna can remember everything, whereas we are struggling to remember even what happened 24 hours ago. So there is absolutely no comparison between the living entity and the Supreme Lord in terms of capabilities. Same qualities we have, but it just stops there. We are Satchidananda Vigraha, Krishna is also Satchidananda Vigraha. That's it. There it stops. Krishna is Vibhu and we are Anu. That is the most important thing to understand. And Krishna appears by his own sweet will. We all come and go, not because of our own sweet will. We come and go because we are kicked and punished and hit by Maya repeatedly, throwing us into various different kinds of bodies, being repeatedly subject to Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. But the Lord does not go through Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Always his transcendental attributes remain and his transcendental position remains and is never given to forgetfulness. He never forgets. That is why Acharyas say that even when I do something very small for Krishna, he remembers. Why? He never forgets anything. Simple. We always, the Acharyas say, you serve a living entity and do so much for him, and you try doing so little for Krishna. What is the difference? Are Baba, the living entity he has a tendency to forget here. And, even if he doesn't forget, he'll act as he has forgotten. That is how living entities, human beings behave. If you try and tell somebody, this many years ago I helped you, he'll say, did you? Then we feel, oh, see, what a, he has no gratitude. If only I had, at that time if I had reared a dog, it would have been more faithful, etc. we feel. But Krishna, anything that we do, Krishna doesn't forget. So it, we should also know that it applies to all the things that we do. He's watching everything and everything is recorded, It's not like sometimes, in our place there is this, Krishna as Paramatma, he is Sakshi, he is witnessing everything. Something like this, CCTV cameras. But sometimes in our country, when you want to take a CCTV footage, they will say the hard drive is missing or the hard drive is wiped out. So now we don't know whether this happened or not, So all these things, kind of drama that goes on in front of our eyes. We see that many times in the material world. But you take Paramatma as the Sakshi, that hard disk is eternal. Everything is recorded. Everything can be rewound and seen. No piece of evidence can be destroyed there. That is why the Acharyas very positively say that even when we do a very little thing, Krishna always remembers. And because he has got causeless mercy, he will give Not that he gains anything by giving some. We always say, no, Krishna reciprocates with the devotees. Is it because Krishna gains something out of reciprocating with the devotee? No. Out of causelessness. Atma Maya Sambhavami. So the Lord comes like that by his own sweet will, always maintaining his transcendental position. And understanding that will actually, as this nature of the Lord, the transcendental nature of the Lord, that although he is unborn and he is controller of everything and he is always transcendental, but he will come amongst us by his own sweet will. This is actually a great science and a very high level transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is teaching Arjuna this, and by following Arjuna's example, we can also study this and understand this and perfect our transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.